Over the years, as I tried to get back into reading, I just could not finish a book. It got to the point where I felt like, is it me? Like, I'll pick up a book, read about a chapter or two, get distracted by something else, and then put the book down. Sorry, guys. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lauren A. If you are a fan of Pretty Suited Podcast, welcome back. I appreciate you joining us again. Actually, hold on for a second. Let me grab some of these here. Yeah, here we go. Hold on. That might be a little too much. But anyways, I decided to do something a little bit different. Okay. So let me tell you just quick story. I actually found a box of my old books in my mom's house when she was moving. I'm carrying this big box of books down the stairs, mind you, heavy as I don't know what. And I'm looking through it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not seen these books in years. When I tell you, I used to be an avid reader when I was younger. If you were a millennial girl, if you were a girl that was born in the 90s and kind of grew up in the early 2000s, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. We had these books that we read, that we shared amongst our friends. We probably had no business reading them, right? They always had some urban tale. I'm talking about Elin Harris. I'm talking about Omar Tyree, Eric Jerome Dickey, Mary B. Morrison, Mary Monroe, a Sister Soldier, like all of the old books. I'm bringing it back. And these Black authors, they just always appealed to us as younger girls with the stories that they told. They were full of life. They were full of personality. It allowed you to escape reality, your own reality, and live into a world of these, fly girls, or they kind of reflected a story that was similar to your own. And I really enjoyed these books. It kind of got me into reading a lot more. I'm talking about I would read at least like 5 or 6 books a month. That's just how into it I was. But as life progresses, I went to undergrad and I got my degree. I got into healthcare, so that was very strenuous. That was, very difficult. So reading kind of was placed on the back burner a lot in my early 20s. And so I just didn't have the time because by the end of the day, I was always exhausted. So, and then of course, when you're in school too, you have to do a lot of reading that you kind of don't want to do. So you end up reading books and reading articles and doing reports and things. And so you really don't even have the energy to do any leisure reading. So I feel like it was a hobby of mine that I really just I've neglected over the years. So I said to myself, instead of me mindlessly scrolling on social media or watching TV and binge watching whatever shows that come out, I really would like to start getting back into reading again. But again, over the years, as I tried to get back into reading, I just could not finish a book. Like it got to the point where I felt like, is it me? Like, I'll pick up a book, right? Read about a chapter or two, get distracted by something else, and then put the book down. And so I'm like, wait. I can't have ADD. Like it can't be that bad. So I'm just, trying to find ways to actually continuously read. So it wasn't too long ago that a friend of mine suggested audiobooks. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I don't really know audiobooks. I'm already a podcaster and I already listen to several podcasts. So I was just like, well, I guess maybe it's kind of the same, right? So I was like, you know what? Let me try. Let me give it a try. And y'all, when I tell you audiobooks by itself, audiobooks, I don't think will be my thing, right? Because yes, it's kind of like listening to podcasts, but then with the way the character and the story changes, sometimes you can get lost if you're not paying exact attention, right? But what I did find was that if I actually listened to the audiobook and read at the same time, that it made a huge difference. Like when I tell you it was a complete change in how I was able to consume a book, I would listen to the audiobook and I would kind of rev it up to like 1.5, 1.7 speed just because I'm a fast, reader. So I kind of want the sound to match up to what it is that I'm reading. So I turned it up and the speed on it, and I actually would read, with the physical copy, and I will literally flow through the story. I'm talking about turning the page, turning the page, because it would match up. And so and with the audio, it kind of helped me to picture the story more clearly, and then also get a flow in the reading part of it. So when I tell you it changed the game, I finished 2 books in 2 weeks. Now, to, the OG avid readers, that might be nothing, right? Y'all guys might finish 2 books in 2 days. However, coming from someone who has not read that much in a very, very long time, this is a win. A win is a win. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I tell you this is something that I'm proud of, because again, I have yet to read a full book for leisure in a very long time, and to have, me do this too. I just think that was pretty awesome. So this is what I'm going to continue to do, and I'm excited about it. So first book that I want to talk about was this book here. Now, you may or may not be familiar with Carl Weber. He is an author that has produced, of course, dozens and dozens of books about the urban tale. But what I like about his books are that he usually develops series around different kind of characters or families, right? Because he had a family business, which I think is now a TV show on BET Plus or BET. And that family business has been running for a very long time, and I've heard it was a really good series. Well, before that, he came out with this series called Something on the Side. So in this particular story, it follows a group of big, beautiful women who are part of a book club. So in this book club, they meet, of course, and they talk about different books, that they've been reading, and they kind of, with the charcuterie boards and the wine and all that good stuff, and get the gossiping about the books. And these particular women, they all have different personalities. So we have Tammy. Tammy is the woman who has a husband. Her life is, she claims it to be completely perfect. The husband does whatever she wants. He has, great love making, and he is, everything that every woman desires, right? He takes care of her. He's a provider. He's a protector, all that good stuff. They have children, so on and so forth, right? Then the other character is Isis. So Isis is in love with a guy, but just something's a little bit off with him. You could just tell that although he may be loving and romantic, he, is always over her house, but he's just a little bit afraid of commitment when it comes to Isis. Egypt is Isis' sister, but Egypt is also Tammy's best friend. And you could kind of tell that Egypt has always been a little bit jealous of Tammy, and that comes into play a little bit later on in the story. But Egypt doesn't really date that much. She just had bad luck with men. And so she kind of just lives vicariously through the stories of Tammy and Isis. And then you have Coco. Coco is a little bit, let's just say it, she's promiscuous, okay? The woman, definitely sees dollar signs when she's talking to a man. She definitely does not really care about long-term relationships just because of the trauma in her past. So she uses men for their money, but then just really sees sex as something that she is very good at and is proud of, and kind of carries herself in that manner. And then women don't like her for it, of course. And then you have Nikki. Nikki is the one who's very soft-spoken, but she is a lesbian woman who lives with her partner, but also has a son. and it's a troubled past with men. So all of these stories, all these characters come together for their book club, but then the book does a very good job of telling each individual story based on the chapter. So like one chapter might be Tammy, one chapter might be Isis or what have you, but all the stories blend together because they're talking to each other in the chapter. So I kind of love books like that because you get that person's perspective per chapter, but then you also see how their stories intertwine with each other throughout the book. I do feel like this story is a really good story when it comes to people doing what they feel they should do to appease others versus what it is that they really want to do. And let me break this down. In Tammy's story, it does a good job of reinforcing the fact that you need to be careful what you wish for, because a lot of times the things that we thought we want will drive us crazy when it actually happens. So in her case, she thought that she wanted to do something really fun for her husband and, bring somebody else into the relationship. And with that, she starts to kind of literally go into a whirlwind of suspicion when she thinks that that relationship is continuing on without her. And when you think about it, it's like nobody asked you to do that, right? Nobody told you to bring that individual into your relationship. But now that you have these insecurities building up in your mind, you're literally sabotaging your own relationships just based off of that. When we could have just left it out in the first place. Just leave it to wonder. Because, all your itches don't need to be scratched. Okay. And Tammy learned that very valuable lesson. And in Nikki's case, abuse comes in all forms. I feel like a lot of times we get caught up on physical abuse, right? But a lot of times psychological abuse can be just as damaging. So what's an example of psychological abuse? Well, someone who gaslights you continuously, accusing you of things that you didn't really do, and projecting their own emotions and their own feelings onto you when it's not warranted, right? Those kind of things really mess with your mind, and over time it can break you down to the point where you're like, well, did I do it? Well, do I deserve this? Well, and that can be detrimental, honestly, just as much as if somebody were to be physical or financial abusive. So, and it takes a while for somebody to get out of that. It takes a while for somebody to get out of that mindset of that kind of thinking, because think about it. If you're going to the next relationship and they kind of walk on eggshells because they feel that they might be accused of something, and that's trauma. That's real trauma that they're carrying throughout each relationship. And it takes a while to even unlearn that kind of thing. So I would say be cautious of the different types of abuse. Just because it's not physical abuse, it does not mean it's not happening. And you have to really take a close look at your relationship and how you're interacting with your loved one and how you're interacting with your partner, because that psychological abuse, that it can linger, and you will carry that with you if you don't learn to unlearn it with some type of therapy or something like that. So Nikki, thankfully she was able to kind of climb out of that, but with Coco's case, a lot of people really want that fast life, right? It seems glamorous. It seems like you're able to find a suitor or a sponsor, but there's some dangerous things that can come with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of dangerous things that can come with that kind of lifestyle. And while it may be fine for some people, you just have to be really careful in how you treat people, because people are still people. They're still human, and may not know how they respond to your disrespect. So while you may not think it's a big deal, the person that you're trying to finesse and get over on, they may find it to be a really big deal. So I would say just be careful with that kind of thing. Coco found out that, you cannot do that with everybody. And she also found out that when it was time for her to love someone else, it was just kind of like, I don't know. It was a tough thing because, she had to unlearn some of that behavior as well. So, because a lot of times promiscuity does come from a place of hurt. I feel like, and a lot of time, I'm not saying it's the case for everyone. Some people just, you do what you do. However, when you are operating out of a place of hurt because you just want to not feel the pain that you felt, or you want to get back at those who, maybe wronged you, you kind of operating from a place of low self-worth. And it's up to you to really find out what that hurt is, and what that promiscuity means to you, in order for you to fix it or to want better for yourself. So I'm not saying that for all people, but in this particular case of Coco, a lot of her actions came from how she felt about herself and the traumas of her past. And once you fix that, then you're able to really see what you actually do want and your value. And then with Isis, her in particular, she felt like the grass was greener on the other side. A lot of times when you're confronted with two lovers or two options, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick because you kind of you compare and you contrast, right? So if you have two lovers and one person is really good at this particular thing while the other person, maybe good at something else, it's hard to really choose which one matters most to you. So you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons. Unfortunately, a lot of times women, we make a terrible decision. We make bad decisions based on immediate gratification versus really recognizing red flags that might be in place. And then now we're regretting our decision later on. So her particular case, she missed a lot of red flags. Those red flags were in her face and she was just dodging them because it was blatantly there. And a lot of times it's a little too late to make a decision, the right decision. So, and then Egypt, again, her jealousy of her friends and her sister really put her into a position where she just basically chose herself. And she was not a girl's girl. I'm going to tell you that right now. She was not a girl's girl, and she really did become very selfish. And I didn't like that character. I'm going to be completely honest with you. So if you haven't already, check out Carl Weber's Something on the Side. It's a good read. I mean, I honestly, if I could rate it, I would rate it maybe. And let me give you my rating criteria first. The criteria includes character development, ease of read, and story progression, right? So if we put all that together, I would probably give this book a good 7.5 out of 10. And the reason why I say that is because some of the writing, and at that time, again, mind you, this is what, 2008. Okay, so 2008. I think I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I think in 2008 I was in high school. Okay, so with that being said, at this time we're talking about flip phones. We're talking about DVDs and lean with it, rock with it. That era. Okay, so the writing was a little bit too on the nose. So something that could have been maybe elaborated a little bit more, or just embellished with words or descriptions and things like that. He kind of writes a little bit straight to the point, like kind of like exactly how you would say it in a conversation. And so it's not necessarily the best or most descriptive writing. However, it flows because it allows you to read it like a conversation. You see what I'm saying? So 7.5 out of 10 when it comes to the actual writing. The actual story and the progression of the story, I think, is done very well, because again, you get to see the flow throughout each chapter of each character, even though it's in a different perspective of the character. So I really, really do like that. What's it called? Anthology. And when it's done like that, where you have several stories happening at one time and then it comes together and it's interwoven together. So I know Carl, he has several other books. I have a couple of them. He does a lot of collaboration with Mary B. Morrison, and Mary B. Morrison is the next author that I've been reading. So you may hear this name again, especially if it's in collaboration with Mary B. Morrison, because they do a very good job of jumping, in and out of each other's books. So I really do like how they collaborate with each other. So check it out. It is Carl Weber, something on the side. I could get it off of Amazon. I'm sure you can find it in the bookstore still, maybe in the Black American fiction section. So anyways, that is it. If you want to see more books, if you have any suggestions of books that I could read, as long as it's on audio, then I can definitely read it, and then I may pick up the physical copy and then try to read it at the same time like I've been doing, and then we could talk about it, because again, I'm bringing it back. Okay, so if you're interested in, novels that you used to read or that you forgot all about, then you follow this channel, like, share, and subscribe this channel, because I definitely will be covering some of these books. If you have any kind of recommendations, please leave them in a comment below. You can also follow Pretty Suited on Instagram as well. Until next time, keep reading, guys. Bye.